Well, good morning, everybody. It's Dave. There's my cat, Bo. We're going to walk around the garden today. If you haven't ever joined us before, welcome. We just normally cruise around the yard, see what's new, see what's blooming, see what's unfortunately burned right now because it's summer. It is so hot here in Southern California. It is the 22nd of August, 2026. And the 9-day forecast is basically 100 degrees every single day. And nighttime temperatures are going up, which is on the bad side for us. Normally we're around 70. We're gonna hit up to about 75, 76 for the nighttime. So it's not a pleasant week coming up, but hopefully on the other side of that, we'll see some relief, but none in sight yet. Bo has her back to us, so we're gonna go ahead and walk around and see what is doing really well. One of the things that's doing great is this mandevilla. And the mandevilla is just thriving in the heat. It is protected midday. You can see a little bit of sunburning here, which is just very, very common. But other than that, it's just really putting on a wonderful show of blooms all the way around. And then over here, we've got the beautiful white daylilies. I guess it's more of a cream color, but I forget the name of this, but it is like White Mountains or White Giant or something like that. And I planted these last year. They didn't really bloom all that great last year. This year, this is their second flush of bloom, and it doesn't seem to be bothered by the heat at all. Neither with the Angelonia. This is its another bloom set coming up, and it's just thriving the hotter and hotter it gets, which is great. There's Bo. I think she's found a lizard, possibly a cricket. The Eugenia, looking terrific. I should cut it back a little bit. I'm not gonna touch it right now because of the hot temperatures. I don't wanna expose any growth that's like back here that's being shaded by removing this foliage here. So I'm just gonna leave that until after the heat wave. Back over here, we'll take a look at what's going on. Mostly back here, if you've never been here before, these are plants that I bought that I haven't cleaned out the area where they're going to be, or once in a lifetime plants that, you know, you just can't turn down. For instance, you know, this is back here because it's shaded. This is, and it's already done blooming now, this is a hymnanthus. Paintbrush lily is one of the names of this plant as well. This one particularly is a blood lily. And so it kind of has not really a true dark red, but maybe a carmine or a pinky red flower to it. But the foliage of this gets like incredibly large, about 3 feet in terms of the strap-like foliage. And it's just back here because it's more protected. I don't want it out in the sun in the garden this time of year. So that's why it's there. A few other roses I haven't transplanted from Antique Rose Emporium, variegated dogwood, some wandering Jew that's going to be in the back of the yard. We've got some erodium down here. We've got a cat that's walking underneath me. We've got threadleaf Japanese maples. This is a Chamaecyparis over here. This is the one plant I forgot to water when it was out in the yard. This is Japanese maple sensu. You can see it is recovering though, thankfully. So I'm very happy to have that. I did move the dancing peacock Japanese maple, the Aconatafolium, more to the shaded area with this heat wave. And then the others, like Osakazuki, that's back here as well. I'm really glad I did not plant these out in the yard yet, even though it was very tempting. This Chamaecyparis doing great, although this bed does get some shade early in the day. We do have, crazily enough, hold on, let me switch positions here. This is our first bloom, and it's normally early for us. I get a lot of these blooming in about a couple of weeks. This is Amaryllis belladonna, called Naked Lady, because it doesn't have any foliage when the flower comes up. When you think about a lot of the bulbs, like tulips, daffodils, crocus, things like that, the foliage comes up, the plant flowers at the same time the foliage is there. Not in the case of this plant. In the case of this plant, you know, you zoom down here at the very base, and it's just the bulb. There's no foliage coming out. The foliage comes out after the flower is done. So that's why they call it Naked Lady. Again, Amaryllis belladonna tends to be a little bit on the pricey side, but it's well worth it. It is a naturalizer, at least in our region, which is I'm in Southern California, and it likes generally the hotter, drier climate. So definitely check it out. These flowers a little bit smaller than what I would normally expect from them, but this is, again, kind of a first bloom and an off bloom. All right, so before Bo gets us, we're gonna move back over here, see what else is going on. I think my neighbors have chickens now. In fact, I'm not even guessing, I'm sure of it. We've got this beautiful Dahlia. I've had that since 1986. Transplanted one time. Variegated geranium, scented geranium. This is the Shishigashira Japanese maple, the lion's head maple. Plumeria is holding up pretty well. The carex, I cut that back as I was working in this area here. Ajuga. Look at this beautiful blossom set on this rose. Everything else is holding up pretty good. Starting to see a little bit of burning on the Chiananthus, which is fine. I would expect nothing less this time of year. Looks like the blooms are pretty much done on the Liriope, but the plant is surviving, which is all we can hope for right now on a lot of these plants. Look at that. Again, this is a Brussels sprout that is totally off season, but it's one of the plants that I had in a 6-pack and it just never got planted, and it stayed in a 6-pack, and now it's loose, roaming the garden, and you can definitely see how the Brussels sprouts really aren't forming because it is so warm. Over here on the other side of the fountain area, this is Jedalo or Yedalo orange. Terrific plant. I love the branching of that. And so does Bo. So she'll probably be over here for a little bit. We're gonna go across to the rose garden, and I do put in fresh water there every day for the creatures of the yard. A lot of possums, some raccoons of late. But just want to make sure everyone has enough water during the heat. Let's see. Most of the tomatoes are pretty well done. This is the black cherry tomato. I think it's a Russian black cherry. This is Seiryu, Japanese maple. It's done surprisingly well with the heat. Left it uncovered. Yeah, most of these tomatoes are pretty well done for the season. The cucumbers, peppers. Yeah, I think we'll probably call it quits on the vegetables in the next week or so. The Sangugaku has done surprisingly well. Again, left it uncovered. This is its second year. Seiryu, its first. With the Sangugaku, you can definitely see when you get close to it, it's like, oh. But for the most part, the plant's done really great. Can't expect anything more from this. Over here, the dwarf hemlock, looking beautiful. This is a dwarf cedar, or at least in the cedar family. More daylilies and berberis. Look at the Bronze Age Japanese maple. Looks beautiful. It's not even getting any tip burn. Dahlia coming up, Westringia. I think the dogwood finally has gotten cooked for all of its leaves, even with the covering, but that's okay. They'll drop. We'll get new leaves next year. I did get in here and prune a lot back this past week. Raised the skirt a little bit of this almond bush. I do have a Casablanca Lily that's in bloom. These weren't nearly as vigorous this year as they normally are. They're normally like up here, 4 or 5 feet tall. These are not. These are much, much smaller this year. And that's very strange from all the other lilies, which I've already have bloomed and cut back. And I did some of that this week as well. There's Bo coming to see us. Probably saw a bird. So I spent some time back here this week, just cleaning and weeding, getting all the palm seedlings up so they don't grow. The bearded iris bed we did a couple of weeks ago. The cherry tree, that's definitely showing some stress with the heat. Everything else though, not too bad, not too bad. We had some blooms on the Leonota seedlings here. Remember, I took the major plant out. These are seedlings that came up. So not even like the main plant. It's just so amazing. The main plant, of course, back in the corner. I should have shown you that, but I'm not gonna walk back over there. The bay tree, Acer palmatum or Shirasawanum. I think it's palmatum, Indian summer. I'm a little worried about the flowering apricot over the next week, but I mean, we're just gonna deal with it as best we can. Just probably midday hose it down just to keep the temperature around the plant cool. All right, I promised you one more watermelon cutting open ceremony. Let's go to that right now. All right, this is a watermelon variety called Moon and Stars, and it's really cool on the outside. It's about the size of a small bowling ball, probably a 10-pound, 12-pound bowling ball. This is nowhere near that heavy. It's probably about 8 to 10 pounds. Not too bad of a watermelon. We're gonna go ahead and cut it open. I'll show you the inside. All right, so this is what the watermelon looks like on the inside. Much lighter colored than the Crimson Sweet. Less seeds, but the seeds are pretty good sized. And there's also some white seeds here where the Crimson Sweet generally only had the darker seeds. I went ahead, also you can see like literally here how much, water is here. I mean, this is crazy. It is moist. Hopefully it is very sweet. I'm gonna take a bite here. Interesting texture. It is flavorful, and it is much more of a chewier watermelon. I wasn't expecting that, but you can kind of see the veins going through here, and how you normally have a watermelon that is something that dissolves in your mouth. This is something that takes a little bit of chewing. Very interesting, but very cool. Again, this is an heirloom variety, so you'll probably have to get the seeds from a specialty seed house or whatever. Moon and Stars, because of that, the outside rind there. But a very fun one. I'm so glad that I grew that this year. Okay, so hopefully next week we'll have cantaloupes. Happy gardening, everyone. We'll see you again soon.